Dr. Hovind, I love your doctoral thesis. I've torn it to pieces with house and gaffle. I can't remember when I last pissed myself laughing. It's a good thing the thesis mopped the piss off the floor.
Welcome to part 17 of this read-through and peer review of Kent Hovind's doctoral dissertation, which was published on wikileaks.org on December 9th, 2009. If you have not yet seen the previous installments in this series, then I recommend that you go back and see those first, as I will be starting in this episode exactly where I left off in the last. Last time, Kent told us all about the trouble that Galileo got himself into with the Catholic Church. Unfortunately, in Kent's dissertation, Kent says that this was because Galileo said that the moon wasn't smooth. Any sane individual will know that in actual fact, it was because Galileo stated, or rather proved, that the Earth went around the Sun instead of the other way round. I'm presuming that Kent omitted this particular fact, because when it comes to this particular fact, Kent does not exactly agree with Galileo. Anyhow, on the subject of Galileo, Kent continues. He wrote a second book to say that he was wrong and that the moon was perfectly smooth. The priests even refused to look through Galileo's telescope because they say that it was demon-possessed. Kent, are you not seeing any similarities here? The hold of Aristotle's philosophy on the minds of the people of that time was so strong that scientific progress was hindered. Come on, Kent, let's be honest now. It really doesn't have a great deal about the teachings of Aristotle now, does it? It's more to do with the fact that if you went against the teachings of the Church in any way, then you would cease to become a member and rapidly become a smouldering ember. If I remember quite rightly, many great works of scientific literature were destroyed because they went directly against the teachings of the Church. But I digress. Kent continues. We face the same thing today. The faulty teaching of evolution is hindering scientific progress. Scientific progress in what, Kent? You don't exactly say. Not exactly biomedical research or biology or genetics or anything else that's generally got an ology on it. Except with maybe the obvious exception of theology. It's statements like that, Kent, that mark you as a very special kind of arsehat. But I digress. Kent continues. Thomas Aquinas was no doubt a very sincere man. However, he was sincerely wrong. Now, at this point, my viewers and readers of Kent's doctoral dissertation would be expecting to find out exactly what Thomas Aquinas was wrong about. But Kent doesn't exactly say. What Kent does say is as follows. He was a very influential person in the Renaissance, which is called the Great Awakening. He is often called the father of the Renaissance. This was a time of getting people to think again. They began to be skeptical of religion in general and the Catholic Church in particular. Personally, Kent, I might agree with you that Thomas Aquinas may have been wrong about a great many things. Unfortunately, the Renaissance and his attitude towards it was not one of them. Without the Renaissance, we probably would not yet have discovered America. So, Kent, you would not be an American. In fact, you would probably be, like most of the population of America, back in Europe, tilling the fields and shoveling shit all day. Although I admit you're probably rather familiar with shoveling shit. The next influential character we come to in our tracing of the history of evolution is Benoit de Maillet. He was born in 1656 and died about 1738. He was very anti-Bible and tried to influence anyone he could to not believe the Bible. In fact, Kent, de Maillet was actually a natural historian with a great interest in geology and biology in general. He actually came up with a similar theory to Darwin's theory of evolution, but not applied to animals as such, but more applied to the Earth in general. He actually estimated that the Earth was 2 billion years old. He based his ideas on his observations and recordings and things that he saw out in the field. It's not that he was anti-Bible as such, it's just that he'd observed things in the natural world and realized that they just did not seem to fit with what was written in the Bible. But I'll let you carry on. He was very full of occult ideas. He wrote a book which was his name spelt backwards. Teleomed. He was a very avid theist, evolutionist, and a materialist. He believed in a great infinite age of the earth. He was very influential in furthering the ideas of evolution, particularly in the country of France. Well, yes, Kent. The reason that he was influential in France was mainly because he was French, and his book was written in French, so if you didn't speak or read French, you couldn't really read his book. But Kent goes on. Another man of this time was Portis, born 1698 and died 1759. He was a physicist and a mathematician, and was a close friend of Voltaire. And how is he relevant, Kent? Oh, you don't really explain. Kent carries on. Both of these men hated Christianity with a passion, and wanted to do anything they could to discredit the Bible. Are you going to tell us anything more about his life work, or didn't you bother looking them up? No. Okay, next paragraph. Voltaire, born 1694 and died 1798, was a deist and was an open enemy of Christianity. When he was 5 years of age, he memorized this skeptic's poem, and on his deathbed he said, "I am abandoned by God and man. I shall go to hell." He's also quoted as saying, if God did not exist, it would be necessary for man to invent him. Many people in colleges today use this quote to pull people away from Christianity. Voltaire is also quoted as saying, "I wish I had never been born." Kent, can you explain exactly how the last quote is actually relevant to anything you're writing in your thesis? I'm sure at some point in his life, Voltaire even turned round and said, "Hang on, hold that thought, I'm just going for a shit. I'll be right back in a minute." Do you want me to put that quote in there for you as well? It's just as relevant. You see, what you appear to be doing in this part of your thesis, Kent, is padding it out for volume with a continual series of character assassinations, going on about how these people from history objected to Christianity, but leaving out exactly what it was that they did for mankind and humanity. You see, Kent, it's like me saying that Jesus was a guy who hung around the Middle East 2,000 years ago, had no wife or recorded girlfriend, and hung around with 12 blokes. You see, Kent, it doesn't quite tell the full story now, does it?